Hi everyone, welcome. So in today's video we are going to talk about the Saturn transit for Aquarius that just happened recently on the 17th of January. We are going to have a look at how it impacts us on an individual level, what are the things that happen on the global level, and what are the different significations that can be attributed to it, what are the type of changes that we can see in the world, and how it is going to shape our future for the near future as well as in the long term, what it is going to have, what are the impacts that it's going to have on the world, right? So let us get started with our analysis. It's going to be quite detailed and we are going to cover a lot of topics that we can cover so that you have a holistic understanding. So first, to give you an overall idea, Saturn's transit happens every 2.5 to 3 years. So ideally it is 2.5 years, but at times it takes a bit more or a bit less. So overall, since there are the 12 signs of the zodiac, Saturn takes about 30 years to complete that entire movement. So each sign that Saturn visits for a period of 2.5 years, or in some cases 3 years, it revisits those signs in the next 30 years. So right now that Saturn is going into Aquarius, it is revisiting Aquarius after a period of 30 years. Now, since Saturn's transit is slow and since Saturn visits each individual sign every 30 years, whatever result it delivers for the sign is defining. It's something major that then lasts and impacts the world or the individual for the next upcoming 30 years, which is why Saturn's transit is among the most significant transits and gives us such a major result all across. Right now, let us have an overview of what it is going on in the world right now. Of course, what you are seeing, and most of you are aware of all of the things that are happening. But whatever you are seeing, if you think back and if you have a look at it, you will see that all of this has happened in the last 3 years, be it the Russia Ukraine war, be it the economy of different countries unstabilizing, be it Sri Lanka, be it Pakistan, be it several other places where there is a recession that is ongoing and crisis that has developed. There are changing geopolitical relationships, there is a geopolitical turmoil, US's withdrawal out of Afghanistan, the COVID-19 that reshaped the entire world, and all of these events, if you see, the majority of its impact, the entire development of it has happened between January of 2020 until right now, which is the entire period when Saturn was there in Capricorn. This tells us how each and every transit of Saturn is significant and defining. The one that happened in Capricorn was significantly more so, and we're going to have a brief look at how Saturn shaped the world in Capricorn before we move on and see how it's going to uh, give its result in Aquarius, right? So just to give you a quick overview, since Saturn is going into Aquarius right now, Aquarius is called the Mool Trikon of Saturn, which is a very favorable sign and a very favorable placement. The second best after Saturn's a sign of exaltation. So the result overall are going to be favorable for every one of us. Even if there are some ups and downs indicated for individuals, they are still relatively going to be better than what happened in the last 3 years, right? So overall it is favorable, it is something positive that is happening. There is better improvement and stability indicated over the next 3 years, but let us look at all of the details one after the other, right? So let us first begin with how Saturn fared in Capricorn and what are the results we saw. Now, one of the first results that Saturn delivered while it entered Capricorn was the COVID 19 that happened. And it has gripped the world since the last 3 years, right? So, that is one of the major phenomena that happened. And you would all know how it reshaped the entire world. Now, we cannot say that it was only Saturn that was responsible for the event happening, because along with Saturn, there were other factors that were involved, which made it a once in a 1000 or 2000 year event. But still, it was primarily the influence of Saturn that made it an event that has had such an impact on us in the last 30 or 40 years. So that was one important thing, and we predicted it at that time in our detailed blog on our website that it is going to last until 2023. So, against the popular opinion, it was going to stay until the entire journey of Saturn through Capricorn. And even now that Saturn has moved out of Capricorn, we still see that there are effects of it. Even right now, there is an outbreak that's going on in China, and there is a potential outbreak that is responsive, that is possible in the entire world, right? So even till now that situation is existing and prevalent, caused and generated, expanded by the movement of Saturn in Capricorn. As a consequence of that, industries across the world, economies across the world, production, manufacturing, expenses, markets across the world suffered. It was one of the most difficult periods that the entire world has collectively seen in this entire in the recent several years, right? So that was one important negative result that happened, and it was majorly, not completely, thanks to Saturn in Capricorn. Along with that, you have seen couple of other results. The first is the power shift that has happened across the world. You will see how, just to recap all of the examples, how US withdrew from Afghanistan, how countries and their geopolitical relationships are changing, how the economies of some of the countries are going through such an issue. You see Pakistan going through a crisis, you see Sri Lanka going through a crisis, you see other countries also brewing up towards a crisis, you see how the European economy is struggling at the is struggling at the moment, and you see overall how the different uh, countries and powers are doing across the world. Along with that, you see outright wars happening, and this is not the first conflict that has happened in the last 3 years. You would remember how things escalated in Afghanistan when when US withdrew out of the situation. There was a direct war with Taliban. If you see the entire situation happening in Pakistan, there still is political instability because of the Talibani elements that are there. And overall, you see this across the world, that time and again there is the situation of a coup that happens, or there is a situation of internal revolt that happens. The same, if you remember, happened when the US elections were announced and when the results for the elections were announced, right? If you recall, the same thing was available, or the same thing was visible when recently with the Chinese premier as well, about situations as to how it is going to figure out and whether he will remain in power or not, and if there is an opposition against Xi Jinping. So all of those things are there. There is a power shift across the world, there is major instability that has been created, and you see new and emerging powers, new and emerging world leaders that are there. Now the entire global power is shifting. The earlier superpowers, or the earlier primary rulers of the world or leaders of the world, are today going through problems of their own, and there are new emerging economies that are considered to be the leaders of the world, or who will lead the world in the future, right? So there is a complete shift in the world order. That's the first major result of Saturn, along with the other that we discussed. The second is the suffering of the masses. So, be it because of COVID 19, be it because of recession, be it because of the world going through a major lockdown, or the entire health industry crisis and the direct impact of COVID 19 deaths, there has been a complete suffering of masses across the last 3 years, across countries, in different situations. Today, you see people suffering due to economic crises. In Pakistan, in Sri Lanka, you see there is a shortage of food. In Ukraine and in Russia, you see the conflict that is going on. In Europe, you see a recession that is brewing. So overall, there is a lot of crisis, and there is a lot of suffering of the common man that can be seen. Even people who are unaffected by all of these events, because of the closure of markets, because of supply shortages, because of economic slowdown, you see people suffering and having problems in their day-to-day life, right? So that's the second result that was developed by Saturn in Capricorn all through. The third is the changing world order, which I think we just discussed along with the first point, that the new geopolitical leaders are emerging emerging, new world order, new partnerships are emerging for the first time in the last probably 60 or 70 years. We are talking of decentralized currencies. We are moving outside of the dollar. We are talking more about a country to country relationship than a world level view of one leader and one country versus the other leader in the other country, right? So that is the third major result delivered by Saturn in Capricorn. And all of these are things that are defining, all of these are things that are permanent. Even right now, when the impact of COVID-19 reduces, even when the wars are gone, even when the economic crisis is gone, these results and these changes that have been created by Saturn in Capricorn, they are permanent in nature. They are not going away. The divide between people that has been created, it is going to be visible for the next 30 years at least, right? So that was a quick preview of what Saturn did in Capricorn, and now we are going to talk about how it is going to pick up from there and take us to the new results of of Saturn into Aquarius. So let us move on and see what is happening in the upcoming transit. So, as I mentioned earlier, Saturn is moving through its Mool Trikon sign, which is very favorable. Overall, Saturn's position is improving quite significantly, and the results for the upcoming 3 years are going to be positive. Overall, they're going to be positive, and they are going to be positive for each and every one of us. So, even when there is something negative that is indicated for you individually, or for your country, or globally, or in any manner whatsoever, it's still going to be relatively better than what happened in the last 3 years, right? So overall, it is a positive combination. There's going to be more stability, there is going to be more growth. However, please understand that Saturn does not deliver results immediately. These are None of these results are going to show up in the next 2 months. None of these results are going to show up even in the next 6 months. You will have to understand that all of these results will take the entire span of the next 2 to 3 years in order to show as to where the world is going towards. The relative stability, the growth, the economic stability, it's all going to take time to develop. But to summarize in a quick view, the individual impact is relative improvement for most of us. Of course, there are going to be specific negative results because each planetary position and transit can be negative for a couple of people. So there is going to be that some people may be negatively impacted by this. But apart from that, relatively, it's an improvement for most of us. The global impact for this is going to be emergence from recession, emergence from conflict, recovery from COVID 19, and an overall more stable global economy. Then, lastly, talking about the Indian impact, it is going to be sustained growth and influence. So, from an Indian perspective, even the Saturn's transit in Capricorn was not very bad. Indian economy grew, Indian politics was stable, and the view and the leadership of India developed thoroughly in this time period. So, following on from the previous transit, even this one is relatively good for India. And since it is good for the entire world, it is even better for Indian economy. And what you can assume, or what you will be seeing, is that the next 3 years are going to be major milestones in the development of India as a country and as a world leader. However, we will talk about that in much more detail, but that's a quick preview of what are all of the results. So, moving on, now let us focus a bit on the individual results of how the current transit is going to impact each of the zodiac signs. Now, what I have written here, these are moon signs, these can be the ascendant signs, but please do not judge them by your sun sign. The impact by the sun sign is going to be minimal. It will still be there, but it's going to be minimal. Please judge these signs or judge the results based on what your moon sign is and what your ascendant sign is, right? The ascendant sign is going to be the most dominating in terms of its impact. The moon sign is going to be the second most dominating in its impact. The sun sign is going to be almost irrelevant, or there can be a short uh, you can say 10% or a 5% impact, but hardly it will matter in the overall scheme of things. So please judge all of these results from your ascendant or from your moon sign, preferably from your ascendant. But just to give you a quick idea, the overall positive impact happens for Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Libra, Sagittarius, and Capricorn. It will be overall improvement and better across all areas, or majorly good across all areas. It will be a mixed impact for Aquarius, Virgo, and Pisces. There will be some positive results, and there will be some negative results. However, still for these three signs, it's a relatively good period. The negative results are going to be for Cancer, Leo, and Scorpio, of which the maximum negative is indicated for Cancer, minimum negative and decent results, nearly decent results, are indicated for Leo, right? So these are the clusters in which we have the impact for the zodiac signs, and I am going to, of course, shed further light on all of these, but just to give you a quick idea, these are the positive, negative, and the mixed impact that you can expect over the next 3 years. Now, moving on, let us talk about the signs where there is a negative impact. So for Cancer, Leo, and Scorpio, the results are going to be negative, and they're going to be unfavorable. There is going to be some challenges and some turmoils. Primarily, it will be change of location or workplace, and similarly, instability in the location of workplace and at home that is indicated. There will be some disruption to your work, so please plan your career related decisions very carefully. As mentioned, for Leo, the negative impact is going to be quite minimal. Specifically, now for Cancer, health issues are indicated. Those who are suffering from any type of an health issue or going through any type of a treatment, please be extra careful that your all of your health problems, they are going to prolong a bit more than your expectation. The health issues are going to drag a bit, and even those who are not having any health issues, please keep in mind that your health should be a priority for the next 3 years. If there are any issues that you are expecting, if you are in the age group where some health issues can happen for you, make sure that you are going through an early diagnosis, get it diagnosed as early as possible, get into treatment as early as possible, so that you can avoid any type of a major problem. That is the first point. Second, career related turmoil is expected for the people who are Cancer ascendants or Cancer moon sign. So please make sure that your career decisions are taken very thoroughly. This is not the time to take any type of a major career decision unless you're planning it with security. What I mean by security is, if you are changing your job, if you're changing your location, make sure that you have some confirmation in hand. Do not be impulsive, do not take a decision that you will regret later on, do not act on anything without careful planning. That said, even if it is not a plan for you from your side, even if it's not a decision from your side, if there is situation that is becoming difficult at workplace, if there are any problems that you see or that you are expecting or anticipating, make plans in advance. Make sure that before the problem gets huge or becomes massive, you have planned an exit for yourself from the situation. And again, I mean a well planned exit. For example, if you need to leave your job, if you are seeing problems building up in your job, make sure that you are actively on the lookout for another job. Make sure that you get a job, get a confirmation, and then put in your resignation. Do not do anything that increases your risk, or that creates career or financial instability for you. Be as secure as possible and take the safest way out in any situation, at least for the next 3 years. For Leo ascendant, there is instability indicated with respect to position of with respect to the change of location or at work. So there is most definitely going to be a change in your location, and very likely a change in your location or residence as well. For people who are primarily engaged in their work, or in their work or career related activities, it is primarily going to be a work related change. For others, it is likely to be a location based change. And if you are planning, if it is something that you are working towards, then it could be a location and a work change, both at the same time. This is the time for ideal decision making, and decisions that are well thought of are going to give you positive result in the future. If you want to take a major turn in your career, if you want to take any major decisions with respect to your career, your family life, your marriage, your home, or any major decisions at all, if it is well planned, if it is well thought of, if it is carefully considered, go ahead with those decisions and they are going to bring you happiness. So with respect to that, it is good. Please make sure that you are not taking any unplanned decisions, not rushing into anything, and not immediately expecting any result. Right now, for the next 3 years, whatever results you get, whatever decisions that you are taking, gradually they're going to give you long term benefit. In the short term, however, it can feel like the results are dragging a bit. Lastly, there is going to be some reduction in family happiness, and there is likely that there will be news of death in family. What I mean is, you can get a news of some relative's death, or any death that happens in your family or in your extended relations. This will not be a sudden death. This will not be something that is traumatic in nature, or that is something that happens all of a sudden and it's very negative. It will be someone who it's not very negative about. Now that can be someone who is in the old age, and there is an expectation that there can be something untoward happening for them. It can be something suffering from an health issue for a long time, and then something untoward happening towards them, but it is not going to be a major uh, a severe negative event, or something that happens unnaturally out of a sudden, creating a major negative result for you. For Scorpio now, there will be a lack of family happiness in general, and there is going to be some frustration with family members, with relatives, and a reduction in overall happiness. Please keep in mind one thing: do not isolate yourself from your family, no matter how difficult the situation is. Make sure that you are trying your best to work on the relationships, and make sure that if problems are increasing, you are maintaining a healthy distance. So you do not have to break your relations, you do not have to completely shift focus from family, or in whatever relationship you're having a problem, you do not have to shift your focus from there to someone else, because it is only going to create long term damage. But also make sure that you are giving the other person their appropriate space. Make sure that it's not because of your desire to immediately solve the problem and rush into the situation that it is escalating the issue further. Maintain some distance, but do maintain your relationships. It's important, and that is the way for improved happiness or better happiness over the next 3 years. Again, health issues are indicated for you as well. This is for Scorpio people, Scorpio moon sign or Scorpio ascendant, but it is not going to be very severe. It's not going to be something chronic, but there is going to be discomfort on and off all through the period of the next 3 years. If there are any ongoing problems, then please make sure that you are paying more attention to those. Even if not, please make sure that you're focusing a bit on your health. The third thing to keep in mind is there's going to be slower result that you encounter over the next 3 years. Not that it is going to be negative, but it is going to be slower growth. Whatever pace at which the growth you are expecting, it's going to be slower than that. Whenever you are expecting a result, it is going to be a bit delayed from that. So make sure that in any situation, any effort that you are taking, it is with more than 100% of efforts from your side. It is something that, if it doesn't go your way, make sure that you try it again in the next couple of years. And specifically for the next 3 years, if there is anything that thing that you want doesn't get accomplished in the first go, make sure that you are giving it a second try. It is going to go through, but there can be some delay, which is why it's better if you try. It's better if you take your time and do not lose your focus. The last thing to keep in mind is there is going to be some property related issues, and if there are ongoing issues, they will persist. It will not be solved. There will be some problem or the other that comes up. Even if there is not an issue, but there is a potential for having any property related issues, then those issues are going to come up. Litigation with respect to property is likely for people who are in a situation where that can happen, so please keep in mind. And it's better for you to steer away from litigation for the next 3 years, especially litigation with property. If you go into any type of a legal battle, if you go into any type of a legal confrontation, it is going to extend at least for the next 3 years. Any property dispute that you are going through or that you are having in the next 3 years is not going to be in your favor. It is going to drag for longer than the 3 years. So please keep in mind that you take very clear decisions with respect to properties, and you are planning in advance for all of these points. Moving on, the mixed impact is there for Aquarius, Virgo, and Pisces. They will have some positives and some negatives. Primarily, when I say negatives, it is majorly about some health issues or the other, but apart from that, it's all favorable. Expenses will increase, but so will career related growths as well. So first, talking about Aquarius, where Saturn is transiting, overall it is going to be positive materialistically, in terms of the result, in terms of the career growth that you are expecting, in terms of overall family growth and prosperity that you are expecting. It is all going to be favorable, and results will materialize as per your expectation. However, for those for whom the health issues exist at the moment, or any type of a chronic health issue exists, those issues will persist, those issues will drag, and their frequency will increase a bit. The suffering from them will increase slightly. So it is important to focus more on your health in the next 3 years. The most important impact, and which is why primarily we will call the Aquarius as a mixed impact, is despite getting all of the favorable results, the happiness will not be complete. There will always be something that is missing, or something that is negative that happens despite all of the positives. For example, career growth may be excellent, financial growth may be excellent, you are getting everything that you want, and yet some health issues persist, which is the reason for not having that happiness complete or whole. So overall it is positive for Aquarius, but still there will be some issues and some unhappiness that persists. For Virgo, it is a time to avoid getting into debts and legal battles. Make sure that in the next 3 years you do your best to avoid any type of a new loan or any type of a legal battle, because whatever you get into will stay longer than your expectation. It will not resolve in the time frame that you are expecting it to be. For those who already have an ongoing court case, or who have ongoing debts, if your efforts is towards resolution, if your effort is towards clearing the debt, if your effort is towards resolving the court cases, then you can expect positives in this transit of Saturn. There will be some health related obstacles for the short term. Now, for the Virgo people, long term health issues or chronic health suffering is not indicated. But in the short term, issues that come for a short period of time and may repeat a couple of times, those type of health issues are indicated for you, along with some obstacles to your children. So especially if you have young children, make sure that you're taking extra care and extra precaution with respect to their health. If you have children who are in schools, or who are going through critical phases of their life, for example, the school exams, college entrance exams, any type of such situations, make sure that they are putting more than their 100% in efforts in order to get the better result. There can be a slight disappointment from their side. So please keep all of these things in mind. These are for Virgo. Talking about Pisces, there will be frequent travel indications. Foreign travel is possible if you want. Expenses will increase, which is the first major negative of this transit for you. Now, earnings will increase, success will be there. Overall, it is positive. So, no, those are not the things that you have to be worried about. You will get financial growth. However, with financial growth, with the growth in earnings, expenses will also increase, and expenses will always be more than your expectation, and significantly more, not just a bit or slightly or by a small amount. It will not increase, it will be something significant. So please keep in mind that expenses need to be controlled over the next 3 years. Success will happen, it may be delayed, it may happen later than your expectation, it may not happen in the first attempt, but you will get whatever it is that you are aspiring for, whatever it is that you're trying for. Career changes are indicated, so please keep that in mind, that there can be some movement or there can be some some relocation, or there can be some short term changes with respect to your career. Moving on, the results are positive for the next three signs: Aries, Sagittarius, and Capricorn. For all of them, there will be growth, some delays, but there will overall be growth. All results will be positive and favorable. Talking first about Aries, accomplishments with respect to whatever you're striving for, be it whether you want a result in career, be it whether you want a result with respect to purchase of a house, buying a new property, investing your money somewhere, getting decent returns, betterment in your family relationship, it is all going to happen, but it is going to happen with delays. Financial growth is indicated, career growth is indicated, overall fulfillment is indicated, but the year 2023 is still not favorable for you. So all of the favorable results, all of the positive results that you want to see will be there visible more strongly or more clearly from the next year onward. So 2024 and 25 are the most ideal time periods for you, where you will see all of these positive results. For now, there can still be turmoils not caused by Saturn in Aquarius, but caused by the Rahu transit that is happening in Aries right now. For Sagittarius now, there will be improvement in results along with career related growth. There will be travel and movement. There will be overall growth, better relationships. It is all going to be positive. There is going to be closer proximity with family members, with siblings, with people that you want to be around, with friends, with all of your different type of people that you have around you. There will be better relationship, there will be better communication with them, there will be better proximity with them. However, a lot of travel will be indicated in this time period. So overall, this is favorable. There can be some issues with respect to your children, minor health issues, minor obstacles here and there with respect to whatever they are planning, but still overall the transit is favorable. Overall the results are positive. Overall you can expect significant improvement compared to the last 2 years. The most significant improvement will be with respect to finances. So financially, the crunch that you guys were feeling in the last 3 years, it will significantly be reduced. Next, talking about the Next, for Taurus ascendant, overall the results are going to be positive. Materialistically, it's a time that gives you the maximum growth. Financial position will increase, career position will increase, career growth will happen as per your expectations, and this is a major time to take decisions with respect to your career. So, if there is anything that you're planning to change with respect to your career, anything new that you want to try, any new direction that you want to venture in, or if you want to completely do a total change with respect to your job, with respect to the industry that you are in, shifting from job to business, business to job, or anything at all that you want, any major career related decisions or life related decisions taken in the next 3 years are going to be quite favorable. Of course, please keep in mind that all decisions should be well planned and well thought of, but anything that is properly executed will give you the results as per your expectation without any problems. Career and job will see major changes. There is a very likely possibility of having a change of location as well as a change of job or career. Finances will improve for you, and overall the next 3 years are going to be quite favorable in all respects. For Gemini now, talking about there will be significant growth and improvement over the next 3 years. So the last 3 years for Gemini has been full of turmoil, and there would have been constant negative results or constant setbacks, especially with respect to career that you would have seen, or lesser results than your expectation, significantly lesser results than your expectation. Over the next 3 years, the pace of it will improve. Over the next 3 years, result will be much more positive, result will be much more favorable, and overall the gloom that has spread over the last 3 years in the lives of Gemini people, it will be restored. There will be new positivity, new optimism, new beginnings, and luck will favor in whatever direction that you want to try. On a negative side, the news of death of some of the family members is indicated. It is again not going to be something unnatural, something sudden, something very negative. It is going to be someone you can expect such a news from. It could be someone who is in their old age. It could be someone who is having some difficulty with respect with respect to their health. It could be one of such a case, one of those cases, but it's not going to be something that is quite drastic, sudden, or comes out from no direction and creates a creates a major suffering. For Libra ascendant now, there will be improvement in the result after 3 years of stagnation. So for Libra also, there was a stagnation of 3 years where the results were not going in their direction. All results were getting delayed. Now it's going to be quite a favorable time period. Things will be favorable, happiness will increase, there will be significant growth opportunities, and growth opportunities will gradually increase. Financially, if you want any result, this is the ideal time period. If you are trying for any type of a financial growth, if you are trying for any type of recognition, prosperity, major standing with respect to your career, this is the time and this is the situation which gives you the result. For the next 3 years, whatever you focus on will give you the respect. So that is as far as the result of these three signs are concerned, and overall that is how the each of the 12 signs are going to be impacted by the current transit of Saturn. Now, moving a bit away from the individual perspective, let's talk a bit about how it's going to impact the entire world. What are the world phenomena, country level phenomena that we are going to see in this entire phase of Saturn's transit, and if there is anything that we can do about it, if there are any steps that we can take up, if there are any precautions that we can follow. So let's go ahead and talk about that. So when Saturn enters into Aquarius, it will go through different phases of its transit. And for the purpose of the year 2023, we have divided the entire movement of Saturn into a couple of important points. So first, Saturn enters into Aquarius on January 17th, 2023. Then, while this time that Saturn has entered Aquarius, and since Capricorn itself, Saturn has been transiting in Dhanishta Nakshatra. It will be in the Nakshatra of Dhanishta until March 15th, 2023. On March 15th, it is going to move from Dhanishta to Sadbhisha, and then that again marks important, significant events for the world. It's going to remain in Sadbhisha for a long time, but in the meanwhile, it also goes retrograde on June 18th. That again is a significant impact on the world and will have important chain of events that are indicated as a result. The most important, however, of all of this is on November 29th of this year when Rahu moves out of Aries. That's the time where all of the positive results that we have talked about Saturn in Aquarius, they are going to be seen. It's from that time onward that the remaining 2 years of Saturn's transit is going to turn quite favorable, right? So these are the overall clusters. Now let's talk about them individually and as to what impact they are going to deliver us. So, talking about the nakshatra impact, Saturn is there in Dhanishta. It is going to be there in Dhanishta until March 14th, 2023. And being in the nakshatra of Dhanishta, which is not very favorable for the movement of Saturn, a couple of things are indicated. First, jobs are going to be affected, layoffs are going to increase. The reason that we are seeing layoffs happening since the past couple of weeks, since the past more than a month, is because of Saturn's movement and increasing role that it plays in the nakshatra of Dhanishta. So layoffs are going to increase, jobs will be affected, affordability and the price for the common man, price of things for the common man, it is going to increase. Keep in mind that since this is a global phenomena, a lot of us are going to be expected. it's im- a lot of us are going to be affected. It is important for all of us to keep in mind that if there is a situation that your company can be the one laying off employees, if your performance is not such that you will be retained, if there is any doubt that you might be one of the people who are going to be laid off, it is important to plan well in advance. Please make sure to keep your backups open. And this, for everyone out there who's trying to take a major decision, this time at least until March 14th is not the ideal time to take major decisions where you're putting yourself in risk. Do not quit your job unless you have a confirmed job offer or something else for sure that you want to start. If you have to build up anything, if you have to create anything from scratch, if you have to start afresh after leaving your job and you're not very clear about your path, this is not the time to take such a decision. It is going to negatively impact whatever your plans are, and whatever your plans are going to be delayed. Please be very careful that security with respect to job, with respect to employment, and with respect to money is critical in this period. Always have backups, and have backups such that you can implement them if the time comes and if there is a need to take a decision. Apart from jobs, however, another impact of Saturn's transit to Dhanishta is going to be natural calamities and man-made calamities, man-made disasters. So recently there is seen an increase in such encounters. We have had multiple news of flight crashes and other such impacts on flight, severe impacts that are associated with air travel. But similarly, other man-made disasters and some natural disasters are also indicated. They are going to be much more in their impact and in their count compared to how it on an average happens otherwise. So some important and major critical disasters, natural and man-made, are going to be in news, and they are going to affect all of us. So again, caution is advised with respect to this, and these are events that are going to be seen in the near future. Next, Saturn will be moving from Dhanishta into Sadbhisha on March 15th, and it is going to be there until October 15th. It's at that point that Saturn goes retrograde. Eventually it will move out of Sadbhisha on October 15th after it goes retrograde, and then on November 24th of the same year, it is going to be back. So for about a month, it is going to go back to Dhanishta and then come again in Sadbhisha, right? This is also a very important time with respect to global events, as clandestine activities are going to increase. Religious and ethnic violence is indicated to flare up, particularly in a country like India. More such activities, more opposition, more communal violence, more misinformation, and more reasons to be at each other's throat is going to be seen. There is going to be unrest that is seen in India and in the world as well. Clandestine activities, spying activities, uh, secretly sharing information from one place to the other, or misunderstandings, miscommunications, misrepresentations between countries at the global level causing issues and unrest. Such activities are going to be seen not just for India but across countries. So country to country dealings under the table, clandestine activities, spying activities, and such things are going to be there, right? So this is not a very favorable time with respect to all of these activities. On an individual level, it is not very bad, but then such secretive activities are going to be there. This also includes events of major hacks, major sabotages, major attacks, primarily cyber attacks that happen on maybe companies or countries or such a thing, where it is a hidden, secretive act of war or hidden secretive attack on someone. Things like terrorist activities or hijackings or such things are indicated, not at a very global level, but such activities will still be there in the news. So this is again something that is important and that is to be kept track of. Secret diplomacy and backstabbing, change of political dynamics is going to be seen in this time period. Again, for the short term, or for a month, about a month, that Saturn goes back into Dhanishta till November 23rd. So from October 16th until November 23rd, there is going to be some turmoil in the service sector. Common man and jobs market is going to be affected, of course not at such a huge level as it is happening right now until March the 14th, but still some impact is going to be there. Inflection would increase in the time, although it will be less than before, and since it is a short transit of just a month, there will not be any major events happening. So that is the nakshatra impact overall. Now let's move on to what major global events we can see. So talking about the global events, first there will definitely be relative stability and improvement as Saturn moves out of Capricorn and goes into its sign, its Multrikon sign Aquarius. Gradually the entire geopolitical context with respect to its stability, with respect to how COVID has impacted us, it's all going to change, it's all going to improve. Countries are going to gain their strength back, leadership is going to gain their strength back. However, keep in mind, this will only be more pronounced towards the end of this year. So the ongoing recession is still going to impact countries. There is still an impact on trade. These things are going to take time to slow down and then to recover from them. Markets, imports and exports, and the entire supply chain, there is going to be delay in all of them improving, but towards the end of the year there is a major indication that these things start to improve significantly. By the time Saturn leaves Aquarius, there will be significant stability compared to the last 3 years and the world will be back on track. So that's the first thing with respect to stability and improvement. The second one, with respect to COVID, with respect to economy, is that you will see gradual improvement. COVID is now coming to an end with respect to how it's spreading. This is the last time. This is most likely the last time that you are listening to the impact of COVID being on such an extent. There might be minor outbursts until the time that Rahu and Ketu are there in Aries, which is November, but that will be very minimal. That will be remaining in small pockets. Overall, COVID is not going to spread. The impact of COVID will now be seen reducing this year and will definitely end by the start of the next year. Right, of course, our impacts, our vaccinations, how we handle such a situation, some protocols might still be in place, but for 99% of the world, COVID will be gone. With respect to economy, then, economy is also going to be back on track. It is still going to take time. Economic improvement is going to take time, and the recession is still going to increase until April of this year, until April or towards the end of April, beginning of May of this year. The economy is still going to, the world economy I'm talking about, it's still going to have the recession, and it is still going to have problems the way we are seeing it right now. The problems right now also are indicated to increase to some extent. So economy is not going through an immediate recovery, but towards the end of the year it is definitely going to be back on track. In general, towards this year, spending of people is indicated to decrease. People are going to be more conscious about their money. Overall expense, either on part of the government, I'm talking about all of the countries in the world, or from a consumer perspective, spending is going to go down, which is one of the major markers of recession. There is going to be some scarcity that's there in the world. April onward, there will be gradual improvement. December onward, there is going to be significant improvement. In the beginning of the next year, the impact of economic recession will nearly be gone. Towards the end of the next year, it is going to be positive and the economy of the world is going to be back on track. However, wherever there has been a major change, for example, situations like Sri Lanka or Pakistan or Russia and Ukraine, wherever there is a major impact that has happened in the last 3 years on economy or how the economy of the country operates, those changes are going to be permanent. Even within the recovery, the changes are going to be permanent. Everything is not going to go back to the same track. It is with the previous errors, it is with the previous changes and the new brought in ways of managing those problems that things are going to continue. The impact of economic slowdown and recession across the world, whatever, however it has impacted production, the country, manufacturing, etc., those changes are lasting. It cannot, everything will not be going back to how it was before the economic crisis and before the COVID. The world will move on incorporating all of these changes. Next, with respect to leadership and politics. So, as we have seen, there has been a major shift in geopolitics in the last 3 years. US's withdrawal from Afghanistan was the first major event that we saw. Russia Ukraine war is another thing that we see. Crisis across some of the other countries is another major concern. And there is a major change in how countries view each other. The power that European countries hold, it is indicated now to reduce because of the economic recession and everything that they are going through. So overall across the world there are going to be emerging powers and there is going to be a shift in dynamics. So a couple of important impacts which are already seen is, first, from a trade perspective or from an economic power perspective, countries like US or the European Union, which earlier held a monopoly or earlier held an important leadership position, that dynamic is going to change. Now, since Saturn, the planet that represents masses, is gaining its strength, you will see that power is now going to get decentralized. There will be countries emerging who deal at their own level and have their own geopolitical understanding, and the world is no more divided into umbrellas. The major change that you are going to see over the next 30 years, because of the initiations that Saturn has done in Capricorn and will now do in Aquarius, is there will not be a versus B. There will not be two groups. There will not be a West world led by US and then Russia on one side or a China on one side or such countries. Countries will now start to deal on individual level. This is one of the major results that you are going to see developing. The pockets of power are going to break. Long-standing al- the long-standing partnerships that were there, strategic partnerships where every country had the same view as their partner or as their ally, that thing is going to change. Countries are now going to start taking their individual stand. So that's one major shift that is indicated. Along with that, new centers of power is going to emerge. So it could be India in some cases, it could be China in some cases, it could be some other country for some other specific in some other specific context or with respect to some other topic or some other subject. But in different things, different countries are going to emerge with power. Power will not be so centralized, or power will not be so clearly distributed between a one world leader or two world leaders. The world is going to have or develop its own personality now, with much more interpersonal relationships, with much more individuality to each of its country and much more identity to each of its country. Okay, then the last thing with respect to wars and turmoil is from 2024 onward, there will definitely be gradual movement towards peace, but with permanent changes. So, whatever changes are happening right now, for example, what happened in Afghanistan with US's withdrawal, all of these things are going to be permanent in nature. They're not short term, they're not things which will be undone at some point of time. If there is a consequence, for example, the change in territory, annexation of of particular areas, a change in how uh, the in what the countries stand for in the global world, then all of those changes of image, usage, im- the importance of each of the countries and the relationships of each of the countries, the boundaries of each of the countries, any change that happens, all of those changes are going to be permanent and the world is going to move on with them. So none of this is going to go back to the way it was. Russia is not going to give up the areas or the territories that it has conquered. Similarly, all of these other global understandings, the partnerships, the differences between countries, the stand a country takes. If there is a country that moves out of the NATO, if there is another organization that is established to handle the situation, if there is a country that is given or is being started to look at as a global power, all of these changes are going to be permanent. None of it is going to go back to how it was before all of this started, before the COVID started, and before all of these major geopolitical events were happening. These are major changes, but the world is gradually going to move towards peace from 2024. Right, so these are the four major impacts that we are going to see at the global level. Now finally, let's talk a bit about our India, and let's talk about how India is going to, what results India is going to see in these coming years or in this coming transit of Saturn. Now, overall, Saturn's transit for India is favorable, and so was the last 3 years of Saturn's transit in Capricorn, which is one of the reasons why India, compared to all of the other economies, has fared so well, has relatively had much less damage, and it's whether it is its image, its power in geopolitics, or whether it is how easily it has managed to overcome its economy from the impact of COVID-19. All of those things have been relatively more positive for India compared to the other countries. And the trend is going to continue and get a bit stronger. So now India is going to go through one of its best growth phases. The next 3 years are going to be quite defining for India, and they are going to set a benchmark for how India grows over the next 30 years. This 3 year is going to establish the image of India that India is going to carry for the next 30 years, and India's position that is going to happen is going to be positive. The changes that are going to happen are going to be positive. So, quickly talking about all of the points, first, with respect to the power and politics in the country, the opposition is going to grow relatively stronger compared to how it has been since the past 6 years. So, the power that the opposition holds, it's going to increase compared to earlier. There is going to be some strength in the opposition. However, the government is still protected. The government's stands are still protected, its power is still protected, its leadership is still protected. So BJP overall is going to fare well in elections, not all of them, but majority of them. Whether they be state elections or central elections, BJP is going to fare well in them. Since the opposition is going to go strong, definitely some of their seats are going to increase, some of their the impact that they hold over the government, it is going to increase. However, the central ruling government is still going to be in power. It's not going to lose its dominance, it's not going to lose its position, it is going to remain strong. The second thing is with respect to people and policies. So in the next 3 years, you will see, and beginning this budget itself, that the government spending is now going to be controlled. The government is not going to spend as much on everything that the government has been doing from the last 3 years. However, the expenses that the government does for the backward sections will be significant, will be quite significant. Since Saturn is going into Aquarius, there will be some relief measures for the working class also, for the salaried employees also, or for the overall workforce that India has also. There is where the major growth is going to be, but still the government's spending are going to be a bit more under control. It's not going to be as openly as they have been spending in the last 2 years to control the impact of the COVID. There is going to be a significant restriction. So that is a major thing with respect to people and policy. And in the Nakshatra transit, we have already discussed that there is possibility of religious violence and some religious confrontations or confrontation between different groups that happen in this period. Another major thing to keep in mind is, and this is the third point that I'm now coming to, that polarization is still going to be in the country. The polarization that has been happening since the last several years, it is going to continue and its impact is going to be felt. The opposition that there are between different groups, or sometimes the animosity that is seen between different groups, it is going to continue. It's not going to change, it's not going to end. However, such events, particularly when Saturn goes into the Sadbhisha Nakshatra, are going to be more pronounced, where opposing groups clash, or where there are such impacts or such activities that are secretive in nature, clandestine in nature, or revolting in nature. So that is going to be one thing. However, one major change that now we will be seeing with Saturn going into Aquarius is that the government's stance is going to improve. So if you see, or if you recall, all of those who understand the events from an Indian perspective, that the government has been pretty restrained in the last 3 years. So compared to how they were behaving when the Section 370 was removed, or when some other major moves had been brought by the government in the parliament, or major laws were enacted, or major policy decisions were taken. For the last 3 years, particularly when Saturn has been in Capricorn, the government has been very calm. The government has even accepted changes to its bill, stopped bringing a particular bill when there was significant opposition, and the government has been pretty restrained. In fact, to the point that even the judiciary has sometimes held power over the government compared to how the government was behaving earlier. Now it is not going to happen. With Saturn going into Aquarius, one thing that we are going to see is that the government's bold moves that the government is known for, they are going to come back. For the next 3 years, we are going to see major decisions that are taken by the government, and with the same force that they were taking decisions earlier. So there will be major decisions. The government will not now going forward bow down to either opposition, or, for example, judiciary. How judiciary has been in news this in these last few months and lately, and how the judiciary finds itself in opposition with the government, that is going to change. The government is going to harden its stand, the judiciary is going to accept its role, and overall, with time, and I'm not saying this for the immediate effect that it's something that's going to happen in the next few months or something, but within this transit of Saturn, eventually the two of them are going to fall into their place, and the government is not going to play soft now as it is playing, as it has been playing in the last 3 years. So these are three major things and major impacts that are going to be indicated for the Saturn's transit in Aquarius. And this brings us to the end of our entire analysis, where we have looked at it from the individual level, we have looked at the transit from a global level, and we have looked at it from the India's perspective. So I thank you all for watching this video, and I hope this gives you a clear insight of what you're going to experience with respect to the current transit of Saturn. If there are any topics you want me to make a video on, or you want me to analyze for you in detail, please drop it down below in the comments, and please like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.